once again, everybody. We just left Mahonoy City. We're on 54 West. We're going on an adventure. We're actually going to Ashland, to the Whistler's Mother Memorial, for the coal miners' Mother's Memorial. We were just at the Molly McGuire's memorial there off of Center Street. Really eerie and just pretty neat bit of history there. Very sad bit of history. Sort of conflicted and don't know what to say, because sort of the story I had heard to this point with the Molly McGuire's, that it was a group of individuals that got accused and basically got railroaded, which I think the particular story that I'm hearing of is probably that is what happened. But there's actually an entire period known as the Molly McGuire period from 1862 to 1876. You'll hear my phone every now and then give me directions. Anyways, it was really interesting. So whether that video comes out after this or before, we will see.
Continue straight onto Gilbert Road
and go from there. But oh, you're not going to be doing that, because that road doesn't exist anymore.
Continue for 7 miles.
Yeah, we're not continuing for 7 miles. We're going to have to go around.
Take the next left onto Church Lane, then turn right onto Gilbert Road.
You guys will actually hear some of the, I don't
Continue
know.
on Pennsylvania 54 West for 10 miles.
Yeah. We're going to have to turn around here, because that road is closed and not marked on the GPS. There's one of these old coal mining areas. So, anyways, I like that too. One head bone spurs.
In 600 feet, turn right onto Gilbert Road.
Yeah, we can't better, buddy.
Take the second right onto Gilbert Road.
Yeah, there's an old church. That's pretty neat.
Continue for.
Alright, so we're going towards 54 now. I think we're on 54. This is sort of an unplanned trip. I'm sure it would have been easier if we could have went straight there on Gilberton, but unfortunately it is closed for business. But anyways, it's interesting because the overall era, it gives you a different view on things to a degree. So it's something I had to read up on more and become more educated on it, but it does sort of, just that little bit, it gives you different feels for basically what's actually happening out there with this history, because you sort of look at it and you hear the Molly McGuire story, which you associate the most. Probably that's the one that the movie's about as well, that these 7 guys got railroaded. Well, then you look at the overall period and realize there was quite a lot bit of nonsense going on. Now, how much of it was the Molly McGuire's, or was it just something else? I don't know. But it gives you several different perspectives of what went on, I guess you can say. You sort of wonder what actually happened. We're going down into the town of Shenandoah now. We've been here with Cliff's channel. He did a video on the I think it's a J.W. Cooper High School. It's actually pretty cool building. It's a community center now, but it was the high school. A lot of them sort of look the same. They were designed by the same architects back in the teens, and really just extraordinary buildings. beautiful balconies in their auditoriums. They'd have the stages, the bandbox, gyms. Some like J.W. Cooper building had a pool and everything. It was just a really neat building. It was a real privilege to be able to go through it. And thankfully, that's one of those old buildings that the community is actually trying to restore. A lot of really neat architecture in these old coal towns. And so many of those buildings get lost over time and are just destroyed. And towns like these, thankfully, it seems like a lot of those old buildings remained. So you get to see some of that architecture from, say, the Victorian era, even Civil War era, that a lot of those buildings still exist and even have sort of their shape, form, and function of, back to at least the 50s, 1950s. Because a lot of these towns, as coal sort of fell out of favor and the coal towns and the industry sort of died, they just, these towns sort of became poor. I think they're beautiful. They have that Main Street feel yet of like 1950s where everything is sort of close together. You don't see that a whole lot anymore, but they're also falling into disrepair and disuse. I think we're going to pull over here at some point because I want to look at the phone again just to see exactly where I is, because I am unsure. I was just a little concerned because my lady wasn't speaking to me on the GPS, and I was thinking maybe I'm on the wrong way, but actually this takes me the whole way right to Mount Carmel, I believe it is, and it's where the Whistler Monument is. Or Ashland, I'm sorry, it's not Mount Carmel, it's Ashland. Mount Carmel's in that area, but I think we might even wind up going through Centralia. This is definitely coal territory, though. You can just tell. You look all around and you can see, the coal mining industry, the evidence thereof. Village of William Penn. We're going through next. We went through a small village called New Boston, and there was no village. I think we were about to enter it before we made the turn, but I was like, where is it? There's no New Boston. Gone. It's no longer new. And it's like they have a town called New Philadelphia that's in between Tamaqua and Pottsville. And it doesn't look like Philadelphia. It doesn't look new. Not ripping on it or anything, but they're like these little small towns that were all throughout here, the coal mining towns, probably 70, 80 years ago or a little bit longer. These were happening places, and it's where industry was and the jobs were, and they're just not there anymore, and they're just a shell of what they used to be. But nonetheless, beautiful little towns, and I love driving through them and doing that kind of stuff because it's just neat. There's an old Sears truck. No, trailer. So much, you can say, I remember from 30 years ago that just isn't around anymore. And it's fascinating how time works and how things change. It's a neat little mining town here. It actually sort of looks like it wants to storm. I think they were talking about that Saturday afternoon, and we might get storms. I think tomorrow on Sunday, depending on how I'm feeling, which I feel all right now, but I'm considering possibly meeting Lewis, they have a World War II weekend at the Alexander Schaefer Farm. We were there for the Cherry Festival, but they're having this sort of encampment, and I think that said Lost Creek, next village, but it's an encampment and reenactment, and I'm definitely intrigued to go there. I'm just not sure if physically I'm going to be up for it, because I'm just sort of beat and tired. I started doing this full-time job. I'm giving up pretty much on giving up on disability at all, but I'm very happy because I can do this. It's just I have to be very, very careful that I'm not pushing it too far and why not injuring myself. So that's why videos have been sort of some time and room in between, and especially I think the last video was like almost a week ago, but it's just a matter of finding the time. A lot of the videos I have a ton of content, but I got to do a ton of editing, and it's by the time I get home I'm just beat to no end. It just sort of is what it is, but I'm hoping as I get more and more used to this, my body will acclimate to working full time, and I'm very, very happy. I'll say that. I'm very happy. And I do want to give a special shout out to Chris. I'm not going to say your last name, but if you do happen to watch a video, I finally found Nicholas Biddle's grave, and I did a short on it, and he happened to be there mowing, and at some point I want to go back there and hopefully I can catch him again. He shared a ton of knowledge, and on the Molly McGuires, on Pottsville, just in everything. It was so, those chance meetings are so neat, and you have somebody that's just as passionate about history as you are, and we just had a great conversation about history in general. So I let him know how much I appreciated him taking care of the cemetery there, and I say thank you once again. I have to look back on the video, but a gentleman let me know, if it's not a gentleman, it's an individual, let me know who lived near there where exactly Nicholas Biddle's grave is. Because if you go to the cemetery, you're thinking it's all in that cemetery. Well, the cemetery actually goes down a little bit further, and it's sort of hidden by the brush. And, well, I found it, and it was really, really neat getting to see his grave site. And, you know, there's a number 5 or 6 graves besides his that the stones were still there, so it was pretty neat being able to see that. And but anyways, it was really neat meeting Chris. Shared a lot about the Charles Baber Cemetery, so I want to go to, I think it's Trinity Episcopal Church. They're the ones that actually run that cemetery, so I want to go get the book for that, because he confirmed a number of the things and the stories. I also was talking to him a little bit about the John Dillinger, who apparently was either one of the prosecutors or judge in the trial of the 7 Molly McGuires, I believe, or at least some of them, but he was one of quite a few that was judge over this, and whether there was the part of the trials that was the unfairness. Gerardsville's coming up next, or what, I'm not sure. I got to do a lot more searching of history just to make sure I'm getting my facts correct, which is important, and I just don't know enough about it. I love these little unique towns. You just sort of, the road weaves through. I've never, and this is a new experience for me, just like, you know, we're experiencing this together. I've never been through a bunch of these areas, and it's just, this is what I want my Country Roads Take Me Home series to be like, is to be able to go out and experience new places, new roads, new small towns, all of that. And at some point, I do want to do the drive-through, like the, I had talked about, I was in Minersville, doing some of these driving videos where I go through some of these towns that are sort of tucked up in the mountains, and they're just such neat places. That's a neat building there. A neat old stone, well, brick church. But you just look at this. It's just nestled in this valley. It's like, what, isn't this stunning? That was when we came down in Mahonoy City. It was neat because you just sort of go down into the valley where the little town is, and it's just so neat. And I love the stones along the road. It makes for such a great experience, just going out and driving and enjoying these places that you just don't think of ordinarily. And every single one of these towns has an extraordinary history. Actually, that was the other thing that was really cool that I learned about a couple of the towns, like why they're called that. It was actually from a couple of individuals that are buried up at Charles Baber Cemetery in Pottsville. Tower City, I finally found out why that was named that, or why it's called that, and also the town of Donaldson. Found out why it was called that as well. There are individuals that were very involved with the coal industry. One was a lawyer, prominent lawyer. I believe even one of them became a state senator, a representative, and everything. And another individual bought up like all this coal business in the area, and a little sketchy it sounds like in certain ways, but that's sort of how business, not making an excuse for it, but that's how business was done back then. It was very sketchy and you had to wonder. But yeah, very cool. There's another, I don't know if this is just one house or whatever, but a couple houses. It's very unique driving through these areas. I love these stone retaining walls that are sort of keeping stones from bouncing down and hitting you when you're driving by. How well they actually work or not, your guess is as good as mine. I have not been hit by a stone yet. There's actually a weird legend out there. I gotta look and see if I can find it. But it's a legend of, there was a Native American boy called Falling Rock, and there's some legend surrounding it that's more interesting. I think it's more as a joke. My friend Nate, I remember him telling me that story, and I can't remember what the story is exactly. I'll have to contact him and ask him about it. There's an abutment of some sort. It used to be a bridge. Another little village. This looked like it was called Cope. Something Cope. We're on the outskirts of Ashland now, or coming up on it, because I remember this factory on the other side of that town, and this is probably it right here. Yep, the borough of Ashland. So we are going to be coming up here shortly on what we're going to film, the Miners Mothers Memorial. So as always, I want to say thanks everybody for coming along, and we will see you all about town.